Hi, it's Nancy, welcoming you to Gardens Grow. You know, I dug out the ironweed in this little spot right here recently, and of course it was just coming back from roots that were left. So today, because the ground is not yet frozen, I did go ahead and dig up what was coming up, and I was going to replant the iris that I took up from here, but I'm certain that there are still roots in there that will try to come up in the spring, and I'll have to take some root kill to this and hope that I can finally get all that out of there and plant something else here, because that was just becoming so invasive and taking over, and I just don't want that. And besides, it was much too tall for this little pot to be seen, which right now it's covered in plastic because it does have some sedum in it that I hope to keep over winter. But even though some will come back, these particular little ones will not come back. And I'm still having a hard time getting started cooking for our Thanksgiving reunion because I keep finding things I need to do. Like this needs to be done before the ground freezes, and I still lack all the irises. I need to clip them back, but I know I'm going to have to wait until after our Thanksgiving dinner to do that. I've got to get busy cooking, and I think those will be okay to wait on, but if the ground should freeze, these wouldn't come out of the ground till spring. And I know there'll be more that comes out, but I feel better having that many of them out. And of course I had to spray for those little old green unladybugs. Those, I don't know what they're called, maybe cucumber beetles, but whatever they are, they're horrendous. They proliferate like crazy, and they eat all the blooms off of my mums and several other plants, the cosmos, the petunias. They just love to eat a bloom. So I was looking to see, and sure enough, there are still some of those green bugs out here. Not nearly as many, but still. I've heard if you have one, you have a problem, so I just hate those things. I wish I could get rid of them for good. So here, when getting close to the end of the fall and winter coming on, and I'm still spraying for insects, that's just crazy. But I sure don't want to have them here when spring comes, which they probably will be, some of them. I'll just have to keep fighting them. Maybe someday I'll have them gone. And while I'm out and about in the garden and still haven't done anything in the kitchen, I'm still thinking about taking the contents of this little pot, which all that's going to live through the winter, hopefully, are the flax. And I don't know if they would live in this little pot through all the cold of winter. So I'm thinking about just putting this in the ground and hoping it will make it to come back next spring. And this is that little pot of peach zinnias and the double profusion zinnias. So I'm going to go ahead and clip these off and put them in a bowl to dry and put them in an envelope to save for next year too. So there we go. I have a little bowl full of seeds for next year. And I wonder if this little Ascot rainbow euphorbia will live in this little pot. I'm definitely afraid to put it in the ground. I lost the one in the ground and saved the one in the pot. But I may put this right behind the house where hopefully it'll have a little more protection during the winter months. So I put that little Ascot rainbow euphorbia right here behind the house, where I once had a petunia to overwinter. So, and I also remembered this little This is the only one of my pink Gara that I got to survive this year. I don't know what I did or didn't do, but anyway, I could probably think about it and remember some of the things. But I think basically I just had tried to start so many and it was too hot for them. They just didn't get started. But anyway, this one lived, and I'm going to put it right here and hope that this is a protective enough spot for it to live in that little pot. And where that little Gara pot, that little watering can that I'm using for a pot is where I put part of this flax. So it just had a perfect little spot right there, and this will be great because this is in front of our front porch where we often come when the weather's nice to have our coffee. So we'll be able to see it. It only blooms in the morning, and then the blooms go away until the next morning. So hopefully we'll be able to really enjoy it here. And because this is the area where I had them, in the vicinity of where I had them before, and I miss them there, I put the other little cluster of them right here. So I'm finally in the kitchen. I'm making a chocolate sheet cake. So I've got started. That's always a good thing. So my first item is cooked and ready to go into the freezer, and I feel so much better. At least I know I'm going to have one thing to take to Rosie's, but I hope to have a trunk full of things by the time it's time to get headed that way. And sometimes just getting started is all I need. Sometimes that first step is the hardest one to take, especially if you know your feet need to go in other directions too and you've got to make a choice. Autumn leaves are falling for our Thanksgiving dinner. What I do is put these in little, like sandwich size containers. It takes 3/4 cup of hot water and 1 small package of Jell-O, and I use the flavors that also are the autumn colors, and then just a little miniature cookie cutter. These have been a hit with the kids for sure. Sometimes even the adult doesn't mind taking this small a piece of a nostalgia from their childhood piece of food. Everybody still loves Jell-O. And I put, of course, wax paper over top of this, and there's actually 2 layers in this now. I can lift this up and show you. And then I'll put another layer on top of this until I run out of the little Jell-O squares to pick the Jell-O leaves out of. I've been doing this for years now, several years, and I still have not found a solution to, like the back of my leaves or any of this just has kind of a rind. It just forms a rind on the back side of it, which makes it tough for the kids when they're eating it. But if you know how to prevent that, please tell me. And I am, well, actually my middle name is not Frugal, but if I hear Frugal, I will answer to it. So I've been using a off-brand gosh, my words are not coming for me, but that's nothing new, is it? But an off-brand cooking spray to spray my little container before I put the Jell-O in, which is a good thing to do so it'll come out fairly easily. But I just decided, I had read what would stop that from forming a rind, and it said don't use the cheaper kind, so I actually bought a brand name kind, and it still did it, so I'm disappointed in that. But I think they'll still enjoy them. They've always been eaten every year, but I'm sure they would enjoy them more if there was no rind there. So if you know how to prevent that, please let me know. And then when I'm finished with my jiggler leaves, I take all this scrap and put it in a little bowl, hopefully minus some of that rind. And I have a recipe for a Jell-O mold that I also like to take to our family get-together, and it is 2 packets of unflavored gelatin sprinkled over 1 cup of cold juice. I use orange juice or pineapple juice, and add 1 cup of juice that's been heated to boiling. Add 1 large Cool Whip, 1 can of jellied cranberry sauce with 2 to 3 tablespoons of sugar mixed in it, and 1 to 2 cups of applesauce, depending on how much you're making. And then put your Jell-O jiggler scraps in that, and add a cup of toasted chopped pecans. Pour it into a Jell-O mold and let it set. Look, this sedum has changed color. Isn't this beautiful? I just love the way this turns in the fall. So pretty. And some more pretty colors, the sedum, and even the mums behind it are showing off right now. I guess some beauty you just have to wait for fall in the latter stages of life to see. So I'm watering my plants again today, or checking to see if they need water. And this is that polymer prints that I love so much. And look at this one leaf, this one big, huge leaf. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love it. It's still looking great, and I hope it stays that great and gets bigger and more beautiful next summer. And I'm also reminded of that scripture that says, "Boast not thyself of tomorrow, because thou knowest not what a day may bring forth." So I know it may not make it. I've had them to die in the winter before, but oh my goodness, I'm going to hold out for hope, for this is so beautiful, and I want to get to enjoy them for years and years to come. And I cannot leave out this little tiger paws or froggy, because it may not be my favorite, but it's so close. It's kind of like all my nephews. You know, I have one favorite, my first one. Rosie says, don't call him favorite, call him your first. But you know, we finally decided, Shane and I, that we just might as well tell it like it is. But that does not take away from the love of any of our other loved ones, nor does it take away from the love of this beautiful little plant. This little thing is tougher than the polymer prints is, and it's dependable, and it's wonderful, and it's beautiful. So I do not want to ever leave it out when I start showing off a begonia. Look, now the earth sign begins to take root and go, but it won't get too long. Too bad. Remember when I said maybe one of my little snapdragons would live? Today, it's blooming. Look, this is that little Forthagilla. And I may not be pronouncing that right, but isn't it beautiful? And I think it's only just beginning, these beautiful colors. Today is the 15th of November. The garden is not as pretty as it once was because everywhere there's dead things. But the colors are gorgeous that are still left. I love it when, you know, my cousin that used to say green, if you looked around you'd realize that green is God's favorite color. But you know what? I think maybe his second favorite color is yellow. I just love it when all this yellow starts shining through the garden. And I love it when the work is done and we get to come out and walk around and just reflect and enjoy the garden a bit instead of working it all the time. But I've still got to get busy. I'm not quite ready for my sister's Thanksgiving reunion dinner. And I've got to get there. Got to get to that ready point. I fixed some divinity and I threw it in the trash. Oh my goodness, I hate to do that. I'm not the kind of person to throw food away, but it was just too tacky, too sticky. It never did dry up. I gave it a chance by leaving it out overnight and the next day, but it's so sticky it stuck to the wax paper and it was just a big ugly mess. My husband and I ate several pieces of it once we could peel it up and Taffy pull it up to where we could eat it, and then we realized, you know, we don't even really want this. We're not even supposed to have this. We've got to just roll this little paper up and throw it away and try again. So we may have another big mess later, but maybe not. I'm going to pretend that that's just a joke. And please, Lord, don't let that happen. Let it turn out great this next time. And I did notice that this little container's sedum is beginning to show its pretty fall color. And I noticed that the bees and butterflies are out and about in droves today. And look at this pretty fall color. This is the redbud tree color, and this is the cherry tree. And this is the orange berry bush or the firethorn. Look at these pretty seed heads, and I may not think they're so pretty next year since I didn't get out here and trim some of these off. They may be coming up more prolifically than I want. And I hope some of these zinnias go to seed, or they've gone to seed, but I hope they drop off and reseed themselves for next spring. I may still come out and get some of them and fix me a little bag of mixed profusion zinnia seeds, but I'm not yet sure about that. This is the hardy geranium. This is how it does in the fall. But it's so nice when you can enjoy even any little part of the garden without all the work all the time. But it certainly won't be long before all the leaves are gone. I'm pretty sure I've already shown this to you at an earlier date, but I was so surprised to see it shining in such beauty. I know it must love the cooler weather than it does that old hot summer's weather that we had, but it is just looking so good. Here's another little example of the garden imitating life, our life. Look at this little rose. It's looking all around it and seeing that everything around it is getting old, but you know, that doesn't pertain to it. You know, we're not getting old. People around us are getting old. We just can't give it up. We can't believe it. Well, yesterday we were just blooming in all of our dewy youth. And you know, during that time of your life, you just totally take youth for granted. But I've come to realize that everybody should get to take something for granted. You know, when my daughter was growing up, I used to think sometimes she just took me for granted. But I thought again, and I thought, that's good. That's wonderful that she has something that she doesn't worry about going to be there. She knows it's going to be there. And we do know those things until we know they're not there any longer. But God is so good, and it's so wonderful to have that special time in our lives when we don't worry about all that stuff. We just kind of, you know, let go and let God take care of everything and know that He will, without even questioning it or wondering if there is a God. And then by the time we reach my age, we're just pretty sure, yes, there is a God, because we would not have made it this far without Him, and we certainly wouldn't still be able to do all the things that we do without Him, even if sometimes we do get confused, overwhelmed, inadequate, all those things. But there's just no doubt, ever a doubt, that God is good. God is good all the time. Even when we don't see it or feel it, thankfully He is there taking care of everything. Like that one little saying or poem that goes like it was, whenever my roughest times, I can look back and see your footsteps everywhere except then, and you were not with me. I didn't feel you. I knew you weren't there, and this proves that there's no footsteps. None of your footsteps are there. And then the Lord said, my child, it was those times that I carried you. Those footsteps are mine. So grateful that He takes us through things we couldn't get through without Him. And even then, it takes sometimes many, many years and many different lessons to get things figured out enough. But His grace is always sufficient. Today is November the 21st. You know, Thursday is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope yours was great, because when I get this on, it'll be after New Year's. But I just wanted to tell you, well, first of all, let me tell you that my sister, my baby sister, made this for me many, many years ago, and it's just always a reminder of her and her love. But I wanted to tell you that we did have a wonderful Thanksgiving reunion at my sister Rosie's house. We had 124, and it was our 28th year to gather at her home. And just, it was so wonderful, and God was so good to me, because, you know, around the 8th, I think it was the 8th and 9th, I started feeling just a little bit bad. Not very bad, you know. I figured I had a cold coming on, but I tried warding it off with some cold medicine. And it really worked right up until Saturday night, the 11th. And I said, oh, if I feel like this, I can't go to church in the morning on the 12th. And sure enough, I felt like that, only worse. And the whole day, Sunday was miserable. Sunday night was miserable. Monday, I started feeling better again. And then I got worried, because, you know, I cooked all that food, and I thought, oh no, it's all going to be contaminated. Oh yeah, I forgot to add that I did do a COVID test, and it showed positive. But I was feeling better by then, you know, and I was just worried about the food. And so I was scared to look it up on Google and find out that it was all contaminated and had to throw it all away. But actually what I found was that COVID does not pass on to someone else through food. It's only through your respiratory system. So I felt like I was safe. I felt like my family was safe. And I just got all excited and finished up. And my second batch of Divinity did turn out. It did have to sit overnight before it firmed up all the way, but it did firm up, and my family, I think they loved it. It was all gone. So that's a great sign. And my sister Rose said that we're on our 5th generation that has come to our family get together at her home, and it's just so exciting. It's so exciting to be with family and have so many memories. And of course we're so busy just bopping off of each other, giving each other a hug, and going on to the next person and the next little tiny tidbit of conversation, because, you know, we never hear a whole conversation there. We're just so busy. But it's so wonderful that for, you know, days after, you remember what people said and what people did. My little great grandson Max walked into the kitchen where I was I would say helping, but, you know, I was standing around in people's way where they couldn't even get their job done because of me. But it was still wonderful, and I was trying, semi-trying, because the most important thing to me is just getting all them hugs and all that love, and just seeing everybody, because we don't get to see each other all the time. That's the most family and one time I get to see all year. And I saw every one of my sisters except one, and I have plans to go see her, and maybe we can eat out together, and I'm excited about that. I took each one of them a little bag, and most of them actually like Divinity, but I had it to put in there, so I was very much excited and very happy. But I was going to tell you about Max, because I was standing in the kitchen and I felt a little nudge on my leg, and I heard a child say, hi, just kind of deadpan. And I looked down, and there he was, and he had just bypassed everybody else and came to his grandma. And he always makes me feel like I'm the most loved grandmother that he has. He has several grandmothers. He makes every one of them feel like they're the most loved. He's just so special, so wonderful. I love him so much. He knows I do. I love you, Max, if you're listening to this. You're such a joy to our family. I'm so grateful you're there. After you know somebody, you just wonder, well, how did you ever live without them in your life? And of course, that's the way I feel about Shane. And for that matter, all of my nieces and nephews, they're so wonderful. They love me so much. They think I'm great. And you know what? When somebody thinks that about you, it almost makes you feel like you are. It's wonderful. So hopefully I did not make anybody sick, and I'm certainly feeling fine now. I felt fine for several days before I went, so and things did work out. Look at this. This is the little clipping that I took off of my, what is this called? I think it's called a purple passion plant, and I had tried at least 3 others, and every one of them died. And I've never really had any luck at trying them inside. I always try them while they're still outside so they can get sun and air and all of that. But this little one has been sitting there laying down. Its leaves were laying down on those little red rocks, and then all of a sudden it began to stand to attention. So I know it has its root and it's on its way, and that makes me so happy too. But let me show you another plant. You know, I told you I lost my rubber plant, and I was kind of keeping an eye out for one, and I did tell my youngest daughter that I was looking for one. And oh my goodness, she works with Altman plants. And look at this, what she found me. Isn't this the most beautiful rubber plant you've ever seen? It certainly is for me. It's so pretty. And if that wasn't already pretty enough, just because it's so gorgeous, this would make it that pretty. Just that little sign, to Mom from Amanda. How precious is that? So I'm back in business with a new rubber plant, and I hope I can keep it for many years to come. I hope one day she has to clean all this mess up that I have, and she takes this one home with her and keeps it for many years more. But God is so good, and it's true that our plants really do remind us of the love of people, and they become special to us just like animals become a part of your family. These little plants do become a part of you. And along with the things that I've already shown you that I cooked, I also made chocolate crusted with Oreo crumbs instead of graham cracker crumbs. That's the way we like it. I mean, we like it both ways, to be truthful, but somehow that chocolate and that cherry just really hits the spot. And so I did make that, and I made the refrigeratable dessert. That's a layered dessert with Cool Whip and shortbread crust and like a cream cheese layer, and it's just, and then topped with Cool Whip on top of chocolate pudding. So it's very good. It goes over really well. None of it came home with me, just the way I wanted it. We stopped at the cemeteries on the way. This is my niece. And this is my niece right beside her there too, that has passed away, and I miss them so, but it does feel like they're always watching over me as an angel, and I do believe that they are. I think, you know, I just couldn't go ahead with a family gathering if I didn't stop and just remind them that we have not forgotten them, nor would we think about forgetting them. They're so special to us. They're still part of our lives. They always will be. And it seems so sad and unfair that so many of my sisters and one brother have had to lose their children, some of their children. This is Cassie, my niece. She's so tender-hearted, so precious, so wonderful. I love her so much. I love all my family. It's so good just to have those special people that God put in your life to be bonded to keep on right on loving. And this is my sister. She is still with us, thank God. And she's my baby sister that I was telling you about that made the calendar. Also, she was at this time an officer in the Salvation Army. And this is my nephew Clay. Certainly couldn't leave him out. And there are others that we don't have pictures of. But one day we'll all be together and we will know even as we are known. And it's cold and windy out today, and I still have not started on my iris clipping. They're all over the place. I have them everywhere. I need to get that started. Probably won't happen today though. And by next Monday we are in line for some sleet and snow, so I don't know how it'll all work out, but I keep telling myself if I could just get it started, I would have a good chance of getting it done, but we'll see how that goes. It is pretty cool out today, but it was beautiful on Thanksgiving Day, and because we've had our Thanksgiving early, I came out and got the irises all clipped out of the front. There's many more to clip out in the back, but it's good just to have this little part done. I think about the times too when we were so poor we didn't even have Thanksgiving dinner. And turkey, well, what was turkey? That was something that Daddy once killed for us by shooting one out of the sky that we had when I was a baby, practically a child. And so I don't remember the turkey, but I remember my daddy shooting it. I remember the sound of the gun going off and how he glowed that he had a turkey for his family for Thanksgiving. And I remember all the things that, you know, we didn't have. And now we're so lucky that we've had so much, so very much. And on top of all of it, we haven't lost each other. Even the ones that we have lost, we haven't lost. They're forever in our hearts. And we have hope of eternal life. And it's wonderful what God has done for us by sending His Son. And that we have hope. Hope is such a wonderful, wonderful thing. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.